Sup everyone, my name is Noah Meehan, and this is the Arc of Truth. And I have to say, I am glad I am back. You have no idea. I'm sorry that I couldn't be able to post any videos for the last month. There was a problem with the mail and stuff about getting my new computer, and my screen with my old computer being broken. Hell, I couldn't use the camera on it. So again, I completely apologize for that. However, now we must get into some big news. The Senate and the House of Representatives, the elections, they are happening tomorrow. And that is a big issue that we must take into account, because right now this could get, if in the worst case scenario for the Republicans, this would mean that the Democrats would gain control of the House. Now, I wouldn't expect them to get like a big majority, probably like a slim majority at very worst, but still they will have that control nonetheless. And I think that they would see that as a little bit of a big morale booster, or like people having confidence in the Democratic Party. Now, I'm going to be talking a little bit about that later in this video, but to continue on, some people are also saying that there's a possibility that the Senate will still be held by Republicans, and honestly, I would agree with that personally. But here's my prediction: I think there isn't really going to be a blue wave, and I'm not just talking about the previous blue wave idea where the Democrats were going to take the House and the Senate and just try to derail Trump all the time. No, I'm talking about the blue wave with the House of Representatives turning blue tomorrow. That's my prediction. I think that the House of Representatives and the Senate are going to remain how it is, in the hands of the Republican Party. Now, currently, we have a few races that are definitely battleground states. There are at least 7 battleground states. Like here in Real Clear Politics, we have Arizona, Nevada, Montana, Missouri, Indiana, West Virginia, and last but not least, Florida. Now, honestly, I'm predicting that the Republicans would actually gain at the very most 3 seats. That's just in my personal opinion. But even if it's just 1 seat, I think this would definitely be a big morale booster, because this is just one more seat that they took away from the Democrats. Now, if they do that, the Democrats would just, again, they lose power in the Senate. More power to the Republicans. They would have, if they get only 1 seat, a 52-48 majority. Every seat counts. If they somehow manage to, I don't know, gain all 7 of those battleground states, despite how nearly impossible that is, they would have about 58 seats, give or take. 58 seats. That is enough. Just 2 seats away from a supermajority. Supermajorities are needed for the Senate in order to pass specific laws, such as treaties and a few other things. In fact, a 2/3 majority in the Senate, along with the House of Representatives, 2/3 of it is required to override the president's veto. So if they control that, they would have a near absolute control of the entire government. And it's just going to be all the Democrats crying and that sort of thing. That is my opinion on what's going to happen. Now I have seen a few of the polls here on Real Clear Politics. There aren't that many of them, but here's what I got. In terms of the RCP average, and I will be linking these descriptions below, as well as the other news paper sources. But here in Missouri, the Missouri Senate, Howley, who is the Republican candidate, is leading, again, it's on the RCP average of 0.5. Still, that is pretty good. I think that he will definitely win this seat. Again, like I said before, take this. I think I said this before, but anyway, take this with a grain of salt, because the polls back in 2016 were obviously wrong about Hillary Clinton winning. I mean, they predicted it was 91% that a 91% chance that she would be able to get into the presidency, and wah wah. Well, yeah. Again, still we shouldn't discount these polls entirely. Now, here in West Virginia, this one I have a very big problem with, because there are currently only 2 polls. One of them is a pretty small number, like 400 registered voters by Metro News from the 19th to the 30th of October. And on both occasions, mentioned the Democratic candidate is leading by 5 points. Again, I think I'm not really convinced by this. I think that there's a chance that Patrick Morrisey, the Republican candidate in the states, will win the election here. This is a slim chance, but I think it's going to happen. I think that's the case. Now, continuing on with Indiana, Donnelly is only on the RCP average, leading by 0.7%. That is within the margin of error. Braun, who is the Republican candidate, is very, very close behind her. So that would be, in fact, I'm not the only one who's thinking this. I think Real Clear Politics, at least according to their NTU map, believes that Missouri's going to go for the Republicans. That is why I think as well. I mean, this is definitely a close race. Don't get me wrong. It is a very close race. But the fact that Real Clear Politics is suggesting that this may happen is shows some gives me a little bit of confidence in terms of where Missouri is going to lead. Here, finally, is the Florida Senate. I don't know, because right here with Rick Scott and Bill Nelson, who again is the Democratic candidate in the state, is leading by 3.2 on the RCP average. So I can only say I hope for the best for Rick Scott, but I would expect that this seat would be Democratic. That's just in my personal opinion. And the polls obviously showed that. Nevertheless, there is a probability that the Democrats could actually lose the seat in Florida. There is a small possibility, but it's a possibility. Now, why is it that Republicans are doing so well, even if these races are just so tight? Well, there's been a lot of things, like Project Veritas exposing a lot of the Democrats for, like, gubernatorial Florida candidate Gillum and his campaign about some of the racism and the idea of not keeping his promises when it can't, if he were to be elected to the governor race. There are a lot of things, and let's not forget about Kavanaugh and just so much crap that so many scandals that have occurred under the Democratic Party. Hell, I even looked at Sticks, Hicks, and Hammer's account and saw that the Democratic Party, and I confirmed this from the New York Times, that, or I think it was the New York Times, and never mind, forget about that. Well, it was basically told that the Democratic Party of Georgia is being investigated for alleged electoral hacking. Now, Georgia is completely different from, like, say, here in Washington State, where I would have to mail in my ballot. In Georgia, is more electronic. So that would give the Democrats or anyone the opportunity to hack into that election. So it's kind of funny that the Democrats would be willing to go so far with this going so far as to commit such an act because they're afraid of the results of the midterms. That is basically pathetic. That is if it's true. Again, this is just an alleged crime. Nothing has been confirmed as of yet. This is nothing like the Brett Kavanaugh situation where they're immediately guilty. I still believe in the idea of due process. While this does not look good for the Democrats, I still think that they're not going to be gain a good publicity for this. I do not think so. So yeah, this is what I think. At the very most, I think in terms of the Senate, the Republicans gain 3 or 4 seats. That way, that they would still keep their majority, and they would secure their position of power in the Senate. They would no longer be at 51, which would be a narrow, would just be narrow and could easily be the outcome of like how bills are presented. Like say I think there was one appointment. Oh yeah, Betsy DeVos. There, like the time with Betsy DeVos, there was a half split between the Senate and the Senate, mostly on party lines, except for 2 Republicans, making it 50-50. Only Vice President Pence managed to break the tie and confirm Betsy DeVos. That is how much they need these 3 seats. And that's what I think is going to happen. Now, again, with the House of Representatives, I think that at the most, I think that the Republicans will have 225 majority hold the House of Representatives. But again, this is just something that I'm predicting, so don't entirely count this on yet. All I know for certain, all I believe for certain is that the Republicans will maintain control. Finally, when it comes to gubernatorial races, I think it's kind of even. I haven't really followed up on that, but from what I can tell, it is pretty even, and even when it comes to like who's currently running and where the governorship races are, and specifically red or blue states. I think basically in terms of the governorship, that the only cases to focus on would be battleground states such as Florida and Ohio. Typically, battleground states for the presidency. Although, again, I honestly believe that there isn't going to be too much of of a wipeout from one side of the other. I don't think that there's going to be like a blue wave against the Republicans. I don't think there's going to be a red wave for the against the Democrats. I just think that in terms of the gubernatorial races, it's just going to be evenly split. But nonetheless, I think that this is going to screw the Democratic Party up. It's at this point, it's fucked. The scandals, the whole identity politics, the derailing of President Trump's agenda, the fact that many of his policies have actually done so much for the country. Hell, it's brought the unemployment down to 3.2% the last time I checked. And that's a big issue. I honestly think that for a while after this election, the Democrats will just not have as much influence. I think that they are just going to be completely wiped out, and they are definitely going to be in the need for a wake-up call. If they don't get one in 2018 or 2020, I don't know if they will ever get one. But again, all I think right now is the Democrats are going to lose big time. And the frustration that voters have on just the establishment, the Democrats in general, is just going to show. My name is Noah Me, and I'm the Arc of Truth. Please post your comments down below, subscribe, like this video, and share it with your friends. And again, it's good to be back.
Almost heaven, West Virginia, Blue Ridge Mountains, Shannon.
I know I talked so many times about the Caravan, how entitled it is, how it has basically traveled from Honduras to Mexico, and how it's just leaving everything in its wake ruined. I mentioned how a lot of people in Tijuana have actually felt about the whole situation with the Caravan, and I even mentioned about them trying to storm the U.S.-Mexico border, which thankfully they failed at. But after what I heard yesterday, when a few people from the Caravan decided to send 2 letters to President Donald J. Trump, this single issue, this demand that they made was the biggest of them all. Just the biggest show of entitlement. It literally takes a cake out of everything else, including trying to storm across the border and even using women and children as human shields. So, what exactly am I talking about? Well, recently they went to a consulate to deliver a letter, or well, 2 letters actually, to President Donald J. Trump. And one of them, it wasn't really a big issue. It was mainly about trying to get the U.S. to intervene in Honduras to oust the president there, which is unlikely to happen. But the biggest one is the representatives of the Caravan, or I'm just calling them representatives for right now because I don't know if they actually have an established leader there. They say they want the U.S. government to give them 50 grand per person so that they can leave. 50 grand per person. Now, if I recall correctly, there were at least 4,000 people within the Caravan at the most. So, if I were to do the math, let's say Okay, here we go. I'm on tools now. 4,000 people. That's the best estimate that I'm gonna make. Times 50,000. $200 million. They're demanding us to give them $200 million just so they could go back to Honduras and do God knows what. After they have been especially adamant over the slow process of trying to get into the United States through asylum, that they have already issued this demand. How pathetic do you have to be in order to actually do something like this? You storm our border. You basically take everything for granted, like even the donated clothes that were given to you by people who are sympathetic to your cause. You basically trash everything around you, especially for any of the villages that you recently have gone through. You have stayed in Tijuana for a few months now, and people are not liking what's going on, and you're issuing demands? Like saying that it's our fault? Fuck that. No, I'm not. I'm going to do that. The only way I would see to pay them would be to give those people, the entire caravan, only $7, and then inside, along with the $7, a note that says, "Fuck you. We're not giving you $50,000 each. Here, fight amongst each other for these $7." That is what I think should happen. That is the only case where I would say just pay only $7. Now, I know it's just mainly kind of as a joke, and mainly it's a rebuttal to those assholes. So that's why I'm mentioning this. But again, it's just their entitlement is beyond it's beyond agonizing. When mentioned this early, when mentioning about this demand, they basically blamed the United States for interference in Honduras for decades, over which caused the supposed crime and poverty that has occurred within the country. Which again, it just only serves as them being so entitled. Like, they blame everything on everyone except themselves. And apparently that mentality has not helped the caravan. Apparently. In fact, honestly, I see a lot of historical analogies to this. When America was just was a recently independent nation, like maybe just 10 to 20 years into existence, a lot of countries, France, Britain, and also what people do not know, the Barbary pirates who were stationed in North Africa, often try to attack, in the case of the Barbary pirates, attack American merchant ships and hold the captives prisoner. Now, in the case of France and Great Britain, they basically put those guys into the service of the Royal Navy in order to fight their wars. And that, of course, led to the War of 1812 and the Quasi-War. But I'm going to be focusing a little bit more on the Barbary pirates this time around. When the Barbary pirates have actually been doing the same thing of trying to take captives from foreign merchant ships for decades prior to even the U.S. even existing. They did that to France. They did that to Italy before. Well, and this, I'm talking about Italy before it became unified. They did that to Britain, Prussia, so on and so on. And they often were paid huge sums of money just to get these captives back and to get them away from slavery. If these foreign powers could not pay, they remain slaves. The U.S. for a while, for a moment at least, kind of decided to do the same thing. But under President Thomas Jefferson, they just decided, no, screw this. We're not paying you any more money, and we sent a squadron of ships all the way to North Africa to engage the Barbary pirates. And that worked. We kicked their asses. We embarrassed the Europeans who had to constantly endure this shit. And now we destroyed the Barbary pirates' source of income. We destroyed their whole power system. I know there are a lot of Marines who heard about this before, but have you guys heard of From the Halls of Montezuma to the Shores of Tripoli? Well, in the Shores of Tripoli basically talks about that same situation. So I see that happening a lot with the Caravan. They demand something, and if they do not, they are going to continue to wreak havoc on the United States until they get what they want, trying to get into asylum or some money. But I do not think that what they are going to do is going to work. I think everyone in the United States will just give them the biggest middle finger ever. I mean, so big, it makes the 2016 election look like child's play. And I think the Mexicans down south are going to join us in that. Because they are already tired of this bullshit. They're tired of dealing with the Caravan. They're tired of babysitting them. And they just want them out. And honestly, if I were a Mexican, I would probably feel the same way. I don't blame them, because they're the one who's basically having to deal with these guys. All that is going to happen is that the Caravan's goals of entering the United States will just end up being exploding in their face. And no longer will Mexico or the United States feel any sympathy for it. My name is Noah, and I'm the Arc Truth. Please post your comments down below, subscribe, share this video with your friends, and yeah, like this content. Bye.
Almost heaven, West Virginia, Blue Ridge Mountain.